Galatians chapter number 4, 28 to 31. It's from 28 to the last verse. Now we, brethren, as Isaac was, are the children of the promise. But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the spirit, even so it is now with us in this dispensation. Nevertheless, what saith the scriptures? Cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with the son of the free woman. So then, brethren, we are not children of the bondwoman, but of a free woman. Are children of a free woman, not of a slave woman. For a subject, then I promise I'm looking at the time myself. I'm going to time me. It's 12:59. At 13:15, I'm sure I'll be done. I'll be done at 13:50. Just give me 16 minutes of your time. Stop holding on to Ishmael. That's a subject.
All right.
That's the subject. Stop holding on to Ishmael. You see, when you study the Bible, when David was old and he was sick, he did not yet proclaim who was going to be heir after him. So there was Adonijah, who was the rightful person in terms of age and stature in the family lineage. He was supposed to take over after his father, David. Although we don't find it in the scriptures, but there's a line where Bathsheba and Nathan, the prophet, come to David and say, you have to say it, that Solomon will be king after you because you promised. And that's how the kingdom was saved from going on to Adonijah. But you have to go to Genesis to understand the context of why I'm talking about stop holding on to Ishmael, rather stick to Isaac, because you are a child of a free woman, not of a bond woman. In chapter number 16 of Genesis, there you find that Sarah is checking the circumstance of her life and of her marriage. And she's there on the calendar and the calculator of her age, and she's seeing that time is going and something is not happening, because what God spoke to Abraham in chapter number 12 of Genesis, it gets to chapter 13, 14, 15, and nothing happens. And then in chapter 16, Sarai says to Abraham, look at this woman. I have a handmaid. She's Egyptian, and maybe she can be of help to our situation. We both can see. God said in chapter 12, I will make you a great nation. I will bless you, but nothing is happening, because in between chapter 12 and chapter number 16, 25 years has happened. And none of the things that God has promised had come to pass. In between those chapters, 25 years is a long time to wait for one promise from God. Even a year is a long time in our counting to wait for God to fulfill that promise that he had made. And because of our impatience, Abram goes to Hagar and Abram produces Ishmael. Ishmael is now the firstborn of Abraham. But Ishmael was not promised, because Ishmael was not was not the idea that God had for Abram and on Sarah. So Ishmael can never be the replacement of what God had promised. Stop holding on to Ishmael, because many a times in our lives we hold on to Ishmael because Isaac is delaying to come. And so we find innovative ways to get to Isaac. But in getting to Isaac, we end up with Ishmael, and Ishmael can never be Isaac. And it's a problem doing such a thing, because then we start praising and putting our hopes in Ishmael, and we start planning our family tree, and we start writing our wills, thinking that Ishmael is going to be heir after I'm dead. But I'm here to tell you, you are holding on to the wrong promise, because herein your promise is Isaac, and your promise is the one that was proclaimed by God. The book of Galatians chapter number 4 is a lengthy chapter, and as you read it, you tend to understand that Paul is making the saints of this time understand one thing, because it there explains, or it puts two situations here. He keeps on talking about a bondwoman and a free woman, and in explaining these two concepts of bond and free, he keeps on making them understand that I put separation between bond, because the ones that hold on to the bond woman are the ones who still hold on to the law. But if you go to Galatians chapter number 3, there you understand that God says, or the Paul writes and says, the law was a schoolmaster unto us, and it was bringing us to Christ. The law was not Christ, but it was a measure to bring us to Christ. So even Ismail was just, or Ishmael represents the law, because he's born of that bondwoman, which is the one we got from Sinai. But Sarah represents a spiritual man, because with Sarah there's a promise attached to what comes out of her, and Isaac is therefore a legitimate son, because God has promised that Isaac should come. Let me just get off of the scriptures and speak to us. Many a times, and she can testify to that, many a times we hold on to Ishmael, because then we get married, and then we date, and then in dating we promise each other, this is what I want us to achieve, and we set goals in life, and we put plans in motion, and we have all these visions that needs to be achieved. And then we get married, and in getting married, everything is fine, and all is well. And then life happens. And when life happens, now all those lists that you listed down, you look at the list and you look at the situation of your life, and you say, I don't think we can get there. And in looking at the list, we start making an alternative list and say, because we can't get to number 1 or number 2 or number 3 or number 4, rather let's settle for number 6, because it looks like number 1. It's not number 1, but it does what number 1 would do, or rather it would have achieved what number 2 would have achieved in our vision and in our plan. And we hold on so long for number 6, although number 6 was never in the plan, because Ismail looks like he is the one. Ismail has all the attributes of it is it, but it is not it, because he did not come the right way, and he was not the one that God spoke about. So many times we settle for Ismail because Isaac is taking 25 years to come. So we find Ishmael along the way, and we go with Ishmael, because at least Ishmael brings the hope in the house. But that's not true. Because if you go to Genesis chapter 16 and 17, you will learn to understand that Ishmael did not bring happiness in Abraham's house. Because as soon as Ishmael was born, then there was a rift between Hagar and her master or mistress, which is Sarah. And all of a sudden, Abraham is found in between two warring women. One has a child, and she thinks she's all there. The one doesn't have a child, but she is the wife. So Sarah says, get rid of this woman. Now Abraham says, but you are the one. You are the mistress. She's yours. You are the one who has to get rid of her. No. Let me pause. Some of our attitudes are Ishmael. So some of the attitudes we have. Deacon was talking about the attitudes yesterday, and he says, when you are in your family, you speak one thing, that's Ishmael tendencies. Because when Sarah and Hagar agreed, the agreement was that you go, but the child becomes mine. But as soon as the child is, Hagar grows a head and extra some crown on that, and she's now saying to Sarah, I'm not gonna give you what we agreed upon. So we have to be careful, because holding on to Ishmael will bring rift and will bring chaos in our house. Ishmael was as a result of trouble in Abraham's house. But as soon as Isaac was born, there was happiness in Abraham's house, because he was born of a free woman. But Ishmael was born of a bondwoman. So many times our lives are hinged around this idea that I'm talking about, that we hold on to a lot of Ishmaels. Oh, I said it. We hold on to a lot of Ishmaels because they are decorated like Isaac. They appear, well, let's look at the realities. Ishmael had the same surname as Isaac, isn't it? Yeah, it's true. Ishmael has the same father as Isaac. Is that right? Yes, it is right. And you know what? In African culture, when a child is born and the parents are not married, the father will go and will pay for the damages at the mother's house. And in doing so, he's admitting that this is my child. And immediately the mother will go register the child, and the surname that will be attached will be the surname of the father, because the father had admitted the guilt of causing that issue. So Ishmael has the same surname as Abraham. I don't know what's Abraham's surname, but this one thing, we have surnames. So don't look at me and say, Elder has studied and knows what is Abraham's surname. I don't know Abraham's surname, but I know he had a surname. If he had a surname, Ishmael has a surname the same as Isaac has. But the problem is, Isaac is the one who's supposed to be heir and the rightful son after Abraham, not Ishmael, because there must be division there to say, Ishmael, you were gotten, but you were not gotten right. You appear to look like, I'm sure he came looking like Abraham. I'm sure if we were to call Ishmael into the Zoom meeting and say, Ishmael, appear before us, and we say, Isaac, appear before us, I'm sure we're going to, but they look alike. They share the same father, but the one was promised and the other was not. So God, there are promises God has made to you. I'm not coming to you. There are promises God has made to you. And you know, while waiting for that promise, you went and got Ishmael. And you want to hold on to Ishmael, thinking Ishmael is what you and God spoke about. But you know the truth right now, that what you or what God promised you is not Ishmael. So you better get with the program and wait for Isaac. Stop holding on to Ishmael. Wait for Isaac to come, because when he comes, you know that he is the one of the promise. He is the one who's going to bring joy in the house. So I just wanted to speak to you on that. And I see I have 2 minutes left, and I told you and I promised you I'm done. Stop holding on to Ishmael. Ishmael was your own idea. It was not God's idea. Anything in your life that's your idea, you have to do away with it, because it will never replace that which is God's idea. Wait for the idea of God. Why would David, somebody spoke about that, I believe it's St. Mary Dawson, it's St. Busi in Psalms 27, because there David says, wait on the Lord and be of good courage. I say, wait on the Lord. You know, there's power in waiting. Because if Abraham had gone with Ishmael, we would not have Israel.
Come on.
Because out of Isaac's loins came Jacob, and out of Jacob came Judah, and out of Judah came Jesus, and out of Jesus we all were back into this newness of life, which is the work of Christianity. So the problem of not waiting for Isaac is that you might forfeit Jesus. Can I say that again? The problem for not waiting for Isaac is that you might forfeit Jesus. Because with Ishmael, there's no Jesus in his lineage. But Isaac fathers Jacob. Jacob fathers Judah. Judah, out of the tribe of Judah, David is born. And then David, Jesus is born. So church, there are things that we do along the way that are Ishmael. They are Ishmael. And have you wondered why you're not laughing? Because Isaac is not in your life. You know what's the meaning of Isaac? Isaac means laughter. So when Isaac came, Abraham and Sarah, though Abraham was 100, they had a smile on their face, because there was no commotion in the house, because Hagar was not what God spoke to Abraham about. However long you have to wait for it, wait for it. No, isn't what the Bible says? The promises of God are yes and amen. So if God has promised it, we have to wait for him that has promised, because he that has promised will bring it to pass. So stop holding on to Ishmael, because Ishmael is not it, Isaac is. And I'm done. That's the sermon for today. Stop holding on to Ishmael. You see, I want to leave this sermon here. You have to decide for yourself, Lord, what's my Ishmael? Because we all have our own Ishmael. If the patriarch did it, if they went and thought Ishmael might be the solution, but God said no. So go look into your life. What is your Ishmael? You cannot replace Isaac with Ishmael. You can't replace God's promise with your alternative. So in the church, we have to work on that. We create our alternative religions. We find our ways of making sure we survive the Sabbath day longer. We create our Ishmaels along the way. You know he's not the one. Keep dating him, hoping he might be the one. Sorry, he's not the one. Just tell him, yo, brother, me and you are done. I think you are Ishmael. So I think me and you must just call it quits. My sister, stop holding on. Stop wasting extra years with Ishmael in your life, hoping Ishmael might come out and all of a sudden he'll come back and he will look like buff, like Kolani, and Ishmael. You know what? He will not be. He will never be Isaac. He will always be Ishmael. So wait for Isaac, however long Isaac takes to come. I'm talking to someone. I might not have explained the circumstance or situation that I'm talking about, but you know what I'm talking about. We all have Ishmaels down, deep down in our heart. If we were to just sit and commune, you know there is that one thing you knew it's not the one, but you keep holding on to it, hoping it can look like it. But he's nice. But he buys me flowers. He's not Isaac. He can buy flowers all he wants. If he's not Isaac, he will never be Isaac. But she's the mother of my children. So what? Even Abraham has children outside of marriage. Hey, I'm not encouraging anything here. Please don't say elder said. I'm not encouraging. I know where you are. You are in the right place. So stay there. I'm talking to someone else. Stop holding to Ishmael, hoping Ishmael will look like Isaac. Sarah had to wake up because immediately after that fault she has made, she quickly had to say, oh, but this is a mess. And in solving, you see, we can blame Sarah all we want. The problem is that Abraham went with the idea. And I want to blame Abraham more. Because he should have said, my wife, let's wait. God said we will have you. But he bought the idea, and in buying the idea, he gave away power, a little bit of power, because now Ishmael thinks he is also heir in the house. No. Go read Genesis chapter number 21, and there you will find the verse where Sarah was very angry because when Sarah was finished winning Isaac, Ishmael was there mocking them. And that's where the Bible get the bondwoman out came from. Because that's where Sarah says, I can't deal with this. This child is full of craziness. I can't have a child who's going to ridicule me in my house. Because that's what Ishmael will do. Ishmael will just make you go crazy. Wait for Isaac. Even in our Christian life, Isaac is a type of a spiritual awakening we are getting. Because there we find that we were born, that is the belief of the church, that once Jesus said to Nicodemus, man must first be born of water, and then he can enter. Now, after we go to the water, we come out as spiritual beings, or rather being birthed spiritually. Yeah. But if we still remain, then it means we are still on Ishmael. So spiritually, don't stay in your Ishmael state forever, because you have to get to your Isaac level. You cannot always be a saint that is just an Ishmael. You have been in the church for 40 years, but still you are Ishmael. You are still a born. You think the law is everything. No, the law was a schoolmaster, but because that's what the Bible says, Jesus is the end of the law. When we see Jesus, there's no more law with Jesus, but we know that he has brought us into salvation. Let me tell you, the salvation is the beginning, it's not the end. When we get to salvation, we start living. We are now newborn babes. And when we come to salvation, we look like toddlers. We are newborn babes. And then we grow. We start with milk, and then there'll come a stage where we put the milk away, and then we eat the meat. And then we grow as spiritual beings. So stop holding on. You see, some of us, the church is unable to grow. You know what's the problem? We're holding on to Ishmael. The church is not growing where God wanted to grow because we are still in the Ishmael phase. Wait for Isaac, then the church will grow. Stop holding on to Ishmael. Boaz was going to come as Boaz. He was not going to come in another name. So also Isaac is going to come, and he's not going to come in another name. He only can come in his own name, in Isaac. So with your Ishmael, put him aside. Because we hold on so much to Ishmael. Okay, listen. Sister Elder Monda can say, but Elder, I don't have sons. How it works for you, Sister Elder, as well? Because you read Numbers number 27, and you find there that there were daughters of Zelophehad, and daughters of Zelophehad, his father died, and they went to Moses, and Moses, our father died and did not have sons, but we cannot accept that because he did not have sons, we forfeit what he was going to get. So give us what belongs to our father. So up until you put away Ishmael, that which is your father can come into your life and you can have possession of it. But because we hold on to Ishmael so long, God is unable to give us Isaac because we're still holding on to Ishmael. You are holding on to that very thing that God wants you to throw away first so that he can present to us Isaac. It was up until Hagar and Ishmael were gone that God said, here it is. Yeah. Isaac is here. Yeah. Be happy now. But the problem with the church, we hold on so tight to Ishmael. We block the possibility of Isaac. So, Church of God and Saints of Christ, that's all I wanted to share. Let's stop holding on to Ishmael because Isaac was promised to us. May God bless and keep you is my prayer.